He was 81 years old, a Vietnam veteran, a grandfather, and in the middle of Kroger, surrounded by customers who looked the other way. They slammed him to the ground. No weapons, no warning, just a black man with a receipt in his hand, and by the time the store cameras revealed the truth, it was almost too late. This isn't a story from the 1960s. This didn't happen in the Jim Crow South. This happened in 2023, right outside Atlanta, Georgia. And it didn't start with violence. It started with an old man buying bread and milk. But when the wrong people saw his skin before they saw his soul, they made a mistake that shook a community. This is the story of Harold Griggs, and what happened today. He was treated like a criminal for simply existing. Harold didn't move as fast as he used to. His knees popped when he stood up. His right shoulder ached when the weather changed. That's what 30 years of roofing and combat service will do to you. He woke up that morning to a message from his daughter. "Daddy, can you grab some milk and bread from the store today? I'll pick you up around 5. Harold smiled, adjusted his cap, grabbed his cane, and walked 3 blocks to Kroger, the one he'd been shopping at for over 20 years. The cashier recognized him. The greeter gave him a wave. Harold made his purchase, tucked the receipt into his jacket, and started walking slowly toward the exit. That's when he heard it. "Sir, excuse me, did you pay for that?" It was a new manager. Young, white, nervous energy. Behind him stood a security guard, hands twitching near his belt. Eyes locked on Harold like he was prey. Harold blinked. "Course I paid for it." "Check the back. Receipt's right here." He reached into his coat. "Don't move," the guard shouted. Within seconds, Harold was shoved. His cane clattered across the floor. He hit the tile hard. His shoulder screamed. He looked up through watering eyes. People watched. Nobody moved, except one woman, a young black mother, her baby in the cart. She took out her phone and hit record. Harold tried to speak, but they were already on the radio. Possible theft. Elderly suspect. Refusing to cooperate. Refusing? He couldn't even stand up. His receipt lay inches from his hand. They wouldn't look. They wouldn't listen. And when his daughter arrived 15 minutes later, she found her father being loaded into an ambulance. He didn't look like a suspect. He looked like a victim. And that was just the beginning. If you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, hit that like button, subscribe, and help us speak the truth that too many try to silence. The hospital diagnosed Harold with a dislocated shoulder and bruised ribs, but what hurt worse was the silence. No apology, no statement, just a generic police report and a locked account from Kroger corporate. But then the video leaked. That young mother posted it online with the caption, "This is how they treat our elders." Even when they're innocent, within 48 hours, it had over 1.2 million views. People were angry, but Harold, he just sat quietly on his porch, staring at the ground. His daughter tried to comfort him. "They'll have to respond now, Daddy. They saw what they did to you." He shook his head slowly. "They only see it now because someone filmed it. But how many times did nobody?" Pressure mounted. News crews showed up. Protesters stood outside Kroger demanding justice. The store finally released a statement. "Regretful misunderstanding. Employee retraining in progress." No admission, no accountability, no humanity. But Harold's community wasn't finished. His pastor reached out to civil rights lawyers. Former students wrote letters. Veterans groups raised awareness. And someone inside the store, an employee, leaked surveillance footage from that day. Crystal clear. Harold paid. Harold never resisted. Harold was profiled. The truth was undeniable, and suddenly, The system started to bend. This story isn't just about one man being wronged. It's about what we choose to see. Do we see a man with grey hair and a shopping bag? Or do we see a threat because of the color of his skin? Harold served this country. He built homes for people who'd never thank him. He raised a family that believed in justice, and still all it took was a glance from the wrong man to end up on the floor of a grocery store. But here's the lesson. Silence protects power, footage protects truth, and unity protects each other. Just when it seemed like justice was within reach, Harold's daughter got a call late one night. Blocked number. No voice, just heavy breathing, then a whisper, "You should have let this go." She froze, the line disconnected, and hours later, someone threw a brick through their living room window. Take two, it was a note. He was supposed to be invisible. Now it's not just about justice, it's about protection, because Harold Griggs may have survived the fall, but the people trying to silence him, they just showed their face. Last time, Harold Griggs, an 81-year-old black veteran, was slammed to the ground at Kroger. No warning, no apology, just an accusation and bruised ribs, but the video leaked. The community rose up. The truth got loud, and then someone tried to silence it. His daughter got a call. Blocked number. A whisper. "You should have let this go." Hours later, a brick crashed through their window. Take two, it was a note. He was supposed to be invisible. The police called it vandalism, a random act. But Harold's daughter, Tamika, knew better. She hadn't posted the footage. She hadn't organized protests. She just stood by her father. But now, somebody wanted her quiet. The next morning, she went to check the footage from their porch cam. But the memory card wiped. Only one frame survived. A figure hoodie up, standing across the street at 3:17 a.m. No face, just watching. Tamika stared at it. And that's when she remembered something else. The same car had been parked 2 blocks away at every rally. Same dents, same bumper sticker, always just sitting. Engine running. Meanwhile, Harold was recovering, but not healing. His shoulders still stiff, his ribs wrapped. But his mind, it was sharper than ever. He told Tamika, "This ain't just about me. Somebody's protecting someone." And they scared the truth's getting out. That's when they got a knock on the door. Not police, not press, an ex-employee from Kroger. Young brother, nervous eyes, said his name was Dante. He didn't come to talk, he came to confess. Dante looked over his shoulder twice before speaking. "I used to work security. Got let go right after that incident. I saw the footage. I heard the manager that night." Tamika leaned forward. "What did you hear?" He swallowed. "They were already watching your dad. Someone flagged him. Not for stealing, for testing the system." "What does that even mean?" Tamika asked. Dante hesitated, then pulled out a flash drive. "Your dad was on a list. A private one. Kroger Corporate didn't make it. Law enforcement did." Tamika's eyes widened. "A list of what?" "Community agitators." The flash drive opened up more than just video. It had a spreadsheet. Names, photos, notes, known veteran, outspoken, keeps written records, tends to ask legal questions during stops, do not engage unless necessary. Harold's name was highlighted, Tamika whispered. They treated him like a threat because he knew his rights. Dante nodded. They thought he might try something. That manager, he wasn't stopping a thief. He was executing a protocol. Harold leaned forward, voice steady. "You mean to tell me they've got files on elders for speaking up?" Dante nodded, and then said something that made the room go still. "There's more. Your dad wasn't the first, and the last one disappeared. If this story has you stunned, share it. Subscribe. Don't let the truth get buried." They searched the list, name after name, and then they found him. Eddie Samuels, age 76, Vietnam vet, community organizer, went missing in 2019. Last seen outside a Piggly Wiggly in Macon. Same story. Accused of shoplifting, said he had a receipt. Police claimed he fled the scene. Security footage went missing. Case closed in a week. Tamika stared at the screen. This can't be real. But Harold nodded. It's always been real, just quiet. They dug deeper, reached out to Eddie's niece, who still lived in Georgia. She told them. We begged for an investigation, but nobody listened. They said he was old, confused, wondering. Then she said something chilling. Right before he vanished, he told me, I think they're following me. The threats weren't random. This was a pattern. So Tamika contacted a civil rights attorney, someone used to battling dirty police files and hidden surveillance. His name was Marcus Wynn, former federal prosecutor. Sharp, dangerous, black. He listened, then said, if what you're saying is true, this isn't just profiling. This is targeted intimidation, and if that flash drive is legit, they've broken the law on multiple levels. They handed him everything, and he made a call. That night, a local news anchor reached out anonymous tip, untraceable IP. Exact details from the Kroger footage. Before it had even been released, Tamika knew right then. Someone on the inside was helping them, but someone else was still watching. The next morning, Tamika got an alert on her phone. Motion detected on the porch cam. She checked the footage. Someone had slipped a folded piece of paper into their mailbox at 4:07 a.m. Marcus opened it with gloves. Inside, photo, grainy, black and white. Harold in uniform, outside the VA hospital. 2016. Back of the photo had a typed message. He wasn't supposed to live this long. Harold closed his eyes. They've been watching me longer than I thought. And beneath that photo another flash drive. No note. No fingerprints. Just one folder. Labeled, do not release. They played the footage, and everything changed. It was security footage. From inside Kroger. Date. The day Harold was attacked. But this wasn't the same footage the store released. This was the raw feed, and it showed everything. Harold, waiting patiently in line, clearly paying, clearly receiving a receipt. Then the manager speaking to the security guard before Harold even reached the door, and most disturbing, a man in plain clothes, earpiece, leaning against the back wall, watching Harold, speaking into a MIC, nodding. Before the manager ever said a word, Wynn paused the footage. That's a Fed or private contractor. Either way, this wasn't about shoplifting. Tamika covered her mouth. So what was it about? Wynn replied coldly. They were testing a reaction, seeing what the public would tolerate, and your father was a pawn in something bigger. 2 days later, the news broke quite open. An anonymous leak sent the footage to multiple outlets. A community journalist dropped the full list of names online, and a crowd of protesters bigger than ever stood outside Kroger's corporate HQ. But as pressure built, so did the fear. Tanti disappeared. No one had heard from him in 24 hours. His phone rang twice, then went straight to voicemail. And then another knock at the door. This time it was Harold's pastor, trembling, holding an envelope. Inside was a copy of that same community agitator list, but at the top, a handwritten note. He's not the only one they're watching now. Tamika flipped to the last page. Her name was there, underlined in red. Tamika stared at the list, heart racing. They're targeting families now. She whispered, and right then the power in the house cut out. All lights gone, phone lines dead, and from the dark hallway, Harold's voice echoed, "They're here." Tamika grabbed her phone flashlight on, stepped toward the front door and Fro's footsteps on the porch. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Then a shadow behind the window curtain. A figure raised their hand and pressed a photo to the glass, Tamika's face, with the words, "Next." Subscribe to the channel to follow the fight for justice. Part 2 is coming, and you won't believe what the investigation uncovered